Law school is bullshit. Hey Legal Eagles, D. James Stone here, teaching you how to think like a lawyer so you can crush law school. Now, law school isn't really bullshit, but there is one part of it that is a total bait and switch that you might not know if you're heading to law school for the first time, and you might not even really realize that if you're halfway through it. And if there's one thing I want you to remember about law school, it's this: only the final matters. There's so much crap in law school that makes no difference for your final grades. So don't get bogged down in things that just don't translate into grades at the end of the semester. And that's things like case briefs, cold calls in class, and sometimes study groups. For most law school classes, the only thing that affects your grade at the end of the semester is your final exam. For most classes, and sure there are some exceptions to this rule, the midterm doesn't count, class participation doesn't count, going to office hours with the professor doesn't count, doing killer case briefs doesn't count, it just doesn't matter. And the only thing that does is your final exam at the end of the semester. And as a result, that can wreak havoc on what law students do. Law students tend to be super A-type personalities who are used to having waypoints throughout the semester, tasks that will result in a grade to know if they're on track. They'll have essays, they'll have book reports, they'll have midterms. All of these things result in getting grades along the way, and it seems like that linear progression results in a good grade at the end of the semester. But in law school, they flip that on its head. The only thing that matters is the final. So the most important thing that you can do in law school is focus on the things that help on the final. And those are things like practice exams, learning the strategies for an issue spotting exam. And by the way, you can get our checklist for final exams in the links below. There is so much stuff during the semester that seems incredibly important. You know, reading every single case front to back multiple times, doing case briefs. And law students tend to be programmed into thinking that this linear progression of things is actually helping them to achieve their end goal. But in law school, that is simply not the case. There's just so much stuff that you can do, and everyone has the exact same amount of time. So the war is won and lost on being able to focus on exactly the things that actually do help. If you're faced with a task during law school, the question you should ask yourself is, will this help me on the final exam? If it doesn't, you should consider replacing it with something that will help on the final exam. Those are things like practice exams. Practice exams are one of the best things that you can possibly do to learn how to ace an issue spotting exam at the end of the semester. It's things like learning the strategies for writing an issue spotting exam. I bet that most people go into law school without any idea of the strategies that will actually help them write a law-specific essay. And here's a newsflash: all of those essays that you wrote in English class or for other classes in college and undergrad, those won't translate into writing a law school-specific issue spotting exam. So those are just a handful of the things that you can do. There's a quote that I love by the Greek poet Archilochus. It says, "We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training." And so many people go into law school thinking what got them here will get them there. And that's just not the case. Law school is a different animal, and it's too easy to get bogged down with things that take up so much time but have zero return on investment. And believe me, I'm no different. When I was a 1L and about halfway through my semester, I was preparing for being cold called the next day. The professor said that I was the one that was going to be on the hot seat, and I was going to be answering the questions. So I prepared like crazy. I read until 3 o'clock in the morning, and it occurred to me at about 3 o'clock in the morning that all of this information that I was studying, this minute detail, this minutia, was not going to help me on the final exam. I was terrified of being called on in class by the professor and looking like a fool in front of my classmates. But the truth is, I had read a couple of issue spotting essays, and I knew that they just don't require you to know that kind of detail. They require analysis and application. And learning that detail for class wasn't going to help me learn how to analyze things like an actual attorney. So that's when I learned that I needed to focus on learning those skills instead of focusing on the minutia of things in class. And so I got through that day on the hot seat, and it was fine. The professor was a jerk, and I didn't especially enjoy it, but I ignored it. I knew that that temporary stress was going to give way to better grades on the final exam because that was the thing that I was going to focus on. And you can do the same thing. It's a total mindset shift. You can make your life easier and get better grades at the same time by studying smarter and not harder and focusing on the most important thing to know about law school, and that's only the final matters. So that is the one thing that I would impart to new law students out there. If you want to know more, and if you like this video, please check out this playlist of videos that are guaranteed to help you crush law school. So click on the playlist and I'll see you in the next video.